And, well, what kind of a film would it have been? I'd love to tell this story. It would have been a current affair program. Because what interested him on Napoleon was not to give anybody a history lesson, because everybody is known. But the relevance of Napoleon for us today, nothing has changed in having great power failing because of vanity and egocentricity. He took revenge when Tsar Alexander broke the Continental Blockade contract. Okay, he broke the contract, all right, but look away. Don't be such a fool and go and fight now Russia in 1812. That was the beginning of the end. But these kind of failures we have all the time. Just last week in England with Brexit. And the reaction of the United States after that also did huge harm to the United States. So you can easily do things which are wrong, but you're shooting your own goal, because you can, and because you're hurt. And it's interesting that we can learn from the mafia. They said, never hate your enemy, because it clouds your good judgment. That's interesting, isn't it? Anyway. Sorry.
No, that's amazing.
Who said that?
The mafia.
Tony
This is a good line, isn't it?
Tell us about Eyes Wide Shut.
Yeah, I think Jan is also we can go and see the Eyes Wide Shut section here.
We're moving into the final section, very small section. I will stop right on that. That is your last task for today.
Okay, let's gather. This is our last formal stop.
Now we're in the Eyes Wide Shut section. This little hallway here, I'm not sure we've ever really used this hallway to this extent, but looks great. Jan is going to tell you a little bit about Eyes Wide Shut. You acted as the executive producer.
Yes,
on the film.
which means very little. But all the time I worked with Kubrick, I worked for him. I did what was necessary, is getting things, getting rights for music or whatever it is, permissions and whatever. We were very few people, a small crew always. And Eyes Wide Shut, probably one of the most important films. He considered it his greatest contribution to the art of filmmaking. The fact that very few people would agree with him is absolutely unimportant. The film was extremely successful in Japan and the Mediterranean belt, but absolutely not at all here and in England. But, I think there will be a renaissance coming, and maybe another generation will recognize what a brilliant film it is. It's just very difficult. I agree. The greatest difficulty is that everybody is an expert on jealousy and sexual fantasy. That's what the film is about. And you can tread on your toes, and people reject that. Okay, so be it. He was struggling with the story for 30 years. As I said before, it was the first contract he had in 1970 with Warner Brothers for a dream novel by Arthur Schnitzler, The Elise. And Stanley pulled out because it was too difficult for him, and he dropped it. Then he wanted to do it again, probably 10, 15 years later with Woody Allen in the lead, and it was New York playing straight role as a black and white art house film made in Dublin and in London. But again, the problem was the script, and he wasn't happy with it, and he dropped it. And finally, after the whole thing was over, and he wanted to do a film about the Holocaust, and that didn't work out because of Schindler's List, which had been finished before his film, and so Warner Brothers suggested to postpone it, and then he concentrated on AI, artificial intelligence, again for a year we worked on that, and then he offered this film to Steven Spielberg. Now, you couldn't make that up, right? And then so that's how it is, and then he finally did Eyes Wide Shut, which was dream novel. And he was extremely proud of it, that he cracked this. It was a personal victory somehow. It took a long time to do. It's a very difficult film. It has many levels and you have to really focus. It's not a film you can watch and check your email at the same time.
You said it's about sexual fantasy and what else?
Jealousy.
Jealousy, thank you.
Yeah, so, it's also interesting that Arthur Schnitzler was a doctor originally. He was a medical doctor, and then he became very famous as a playwright, and he gave up doctoring, and he only wrote. And Sigmund Freud called him his alter ego. And he himself was one of the first stories accusing men of their double standard, and was a women's liberator, because men men allowed themselves freedom for which, if women took the same freedom, they were terribly accused. So, well, you know all that. But he himself was also a womanizer. I mean, he was an expert on all levels. Yeah? It was very interesting.
You're talking about Schnitzler, not Kubrick.
Arthur Schnitzler. Okay. Yeah, I'm talking about Schnitzler. Arthur Schnitzler.
Okay.
Very interesting character.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, not Kubrick at all. He was a very solid family man. Yeah. But Schnitzler was an impressive personality. He wrote fantastic stories. I read a lot about him. And he also wrote a dream diary. He wrote down his dreams. It's never been published, but I read it in the archive, in the Schnitzler archive in Marbach near Stuttgart. And he wrote a dream down 3 times over a long period. He dreamt he came late to his own funeral. And there were all the people standing there in the back. And there was the grave ready. And everybody was there. And his mother walked towards him and said, "Not even to your own funeral can you be on time." And then he wakes up. Now, yes, can I tell you something? I mean, no doubt that Sigmund Freud had a field day. Anyway, so that's Eyes Wide Shut. Now, one of the things in Eyes Wide Shut, which is very, very tricky, is he shows, has anybody of you seen that film?
Yes.
Oh, yeah,
Many
okay.
times.
There is a so-called orgy in that film. It isn't really. It's a modern hell. And Stanley wanted to show a modern hell into which these very rich men go as voyeurs out of their own free will. He sort of Hieronymus Bosch, how he painted this. So this was his image. And we were very concerned that this might not get quite across. And I remember also, it was all stylized. It was totally unrealistic. All these girls were sort of in the same height, and they were all fashion models, and they didn't care as long as they couldn't be recognized, because next day they were selling pullovers or whatever it is. So as long as they were not recognized, no problem with them. But then Stanley said, well, I mean, we had these elegant half masks for the men. This doesn't make any sense. They recognize each other next day on a board meeting or whatever. We need full masks. So quickly, because we were way with that. So now, I'm sometimes asked, what's the job of the executive producer? In this particular case, go to Venice and buy 200 masks. So I bought everything from I know every mask shop in Venice. They were very happy with me. I didn't have time to negotiate, so I said this or this. So, and there they are, and the girls had these fantastic feather masks, and that was it. Yeah, and you couldn't recognize. It's a very spooky scene. I remember we had, and this is something, I just told this to somebody this afternoon. This is something I like so much about Kubrick as a person and as an artist. The total conviction. And because we told him, the first assistant and I told him, look, you might get into trouble with the censor. There's too much nudity. Don't be ridiculous. They know. He couldn't see that. For him, it was the voyeurs. The rest is just, that's nothing. It's dressing. It's the voyeurs. They should, if they censor, they should censor the guys.
That's good.
That's not how it works.
That's good.
That's not how it works. But the fact that he was so determined is also what makes a great artist. And I always say, don't argue with Marc Chagall that donkeys don't fly. There's no point, because they do. So, yeah. And later on, of course, we had huge trouble with the sensors. Yeah, but anyway, what else can I tell you about ice
Well,
watch?
I'm curious about the casting of Kidman and Cruz.
Yes, Kidman and
Of
Cruz.
how that happened.
I can tell you exactly how it happened.
At one time he's thinking of Woody Allen and it's black and white.
Well, no,
movie.
that was 20 years before.
Right.
Yeah. By that time it was different. He wanted always Tom Cruise. There was never any other. He wanted Tom Cruise. He thought this was a perfect guy. Good looking, good actor, super successful. Yes, he plays this doctor and blah, blah, blah. We didn't want Nicole. We didn't think of Nicole. In fact, it was almost a hindrance that they were married at the time. But then we saw her holding a close-up so well in a film where she plays a television lady.
She's
To Die For.
To Die For. Yeah.
And she really can hold a long close-up, which he liked very much. And then he said, well, maybe I should, never mind, they're married. Tom, do you mind if you are? No, we love to work together, bingo. So, and that's how it happened. And she was brilliant.
Was he going to use Alec Baldwin and Kim Basinger at one point? Was he thinking of using Alec Baldwin and Kim Basinger at one point?
No, not at all.
I had read that he wanted a married couple, and that's
Oh,
why.
not at all.
No,
He
okay.
never wanted a married
Yeah,
couple.
we read the same article.
He never wanted a married couple, but there are so many things written and fantasized, and he never talked back anyway, but by that time he was dead. But even before, when so many things were written about him, he never talked back. He never, there's no point. I remember a situation where I was furious. Some stupid article written about after Full Metal Jacket, and I said to Stanley, look, let me talk to the editor, to this guy. I said, oh, for heaven's sakes, don't, you never get rid of him. That was his attitude. So, he was, as an artist, you're naked, you're vulnerable, there you are. Nothing you can do about it. That's true for painters, for composers, for writers, and for filmmakers. And a film is made by one person. A great film. You need, no committee has ever made a great work of art. You need great artists, of course you do. You need actors, you need cinematographers and designers. They all have to be good, but they don't make the film. The film is made by the amalgamation of the writer and the director into the filmmaker. That's just how it is. In my book. That's what I know. And I'm not one of them. So I'm not an artist, so I'm fairly objective.
Just want to thank you so much for spending your time with us. And to you too, Tim, thank you. And Anastasia, congratulations to the team. And I know you have a dinner.